tell you, I wore this jacket today because you can't buy this anymore. This jacket reminds me of my grandfather. Can't buy these. Actually, I actually had 1791 make this by an American. We had that made. We didn't send it to India. This is what I remember from the childhood. Future farmers of America. Who are the future farmers? You know the average age of a farmer now is 65 years old? Boy, add another 10 years, how are we going to eat? Who's going to grow food? Nobody's studying it anymore. It's all big farm. It's going to end up well, isn't it? I had the incredible misfortune of finding out what Labor Secretary Hilda Solis, who is from Los Angeles, has decided to dictate to the farmers and future farmers of America. Solis, by the way, is just your average ordinary American whose appointment was literally cheered by the Communist Party USA. In their publication, People's World, they welcomed the pro-worker as a great choice who would chart new territory for working Americans. But I digress. Fear not. New workers, new territory. No, there's a new sheriff in town, according to Hilda. Listen.
The Labor Department must ensure that American workers are paid what they deserve, are treated fairly, have safe and healthy workplaces, and will accomplish this through tough enforcement, transparency, cooperation, and balance. To those who have, for too long, abused workers, put them in harm's way, denied them fair pay, let me be clear. There is a new sheriff in town.
It all sounds great until you actually see what this sheriff is pulling out of her holster and shooting at your family. Farmers now are outraged after learning of the new regulations from her Labor Department that tell farmers what kids can and cannot do on the farm. This story has slipped under the radar because it's completely ignored by the mainstream media because they're all New York elitists. And we have Washington, big city elitists. We have Obama from Chicago. We have Hilda Solis from Los Angeles trying to tell the farmers the best way to run their damn farms. Oh, really? Wouldn't you love to say to one of them, why don't you come on and plant a little garden? Let's see how you do. It all sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? I'll show you how bad it is coming up in a minute. But first, I want to show you some of the new rules that they've set up. For example, children under 16 years of age are now forbidden from completing agricultural work with animals and pesticide handling, timber operations, manure pits, and storage bins. God forbid they get their hands dirty. They also are banned from handling any power equipment, you know, like a tractor, even if they've taken a safety class. I was driving my grandfather's tractor when I was 10. They're banned from helping in any form the cultivation of harvesting and curing tobacco. Oh, not cigarettes. They're banned from working with animals in feedlots, grain silos, stockyards, or livestock auctions. Another restriction would prohibit kids under 18 from working in the storing, marketing, and transportation of farm product raw materials. Don't touch the eggs. No! Senator Moran gave an example of the ridiculousness of this regulation. Listen.
Regulations prohibiting a young person from working 6 feet off the ground mean that no child, no young person is going to be in a cab of a tractor or a combine. And in fact, your rules suggest that a young person could not even use a powered-driven screwdriver.
I have to tell you something. My sister ran a pea viner when she was, I think, 15 or 16 years old. Everybody I grew up with, everybody worked on a farm. 70 lawmakers wrote this letter to the Labor Department and said the new regulation, quote, challenges the conventional wisdom of what defines a family farm in the United States. Now, her response is, she's just trying to, I'm just trying to protect the children. This is just about child labor. Oh, evil child labor, coal dust. They just look like they're like little Disney dirty orphans. They got soot all over their face. Please don't make me work in the tractor one more day, Daddy, please. She just doesn't want to hurt the family farms. Right. Here she is talking about how much she loves the family farm. Watch how she loses eye contact when she says, you know, I don't want to hurt the family farm. Watch this.
we are concerned when there are fatalities, when we still see the second largest rate of fatalities occurring on farms. And while I don't have a problem with children working on their parents' or relatives' farms, that is a question that we're going to be seeking comment on. And I certainly personally agree that those are things that should be allowable, quite frankly. But I do know that we have to protect and prevent any further injuries from young people that are working in settings that are not protected. We've had serious fatalities, a record of more than, say, 21.3% per 100,000. And I just received a report that was issued yesterday by the Journal of Pediatrics that also states very clearly that we have seen an increase in rise in injury and cost to businesses because of fatalities and young people in agriculture. Not all of them have been with direct work on farms, but many of them in the agricultural industry. So I think there is a compelling reason to look at this rule. We haven't upgraded the rule for 40 years. And the way business is done on farms has changed a bit. We just want to make sure that we get it right, that we get the most abundant comments from people that are out in the field, that are running these operations, and to do our best to try to inform farmers and business owners that we want to work with them.
This hasn't been updated.
Much technical help as we can.
It hasn't been updated in 40 years, and things are getting worse. Really? It hasn't been touched in 40 years. Farms are more dangerous today than they were 40 years ago when Jeffro was out in the back. People falling into haymaking machines? What are you talking about? Oh, it's so much more dangerous. There's a lot to unpack here. Let me go. First of all, I hate to be all upset here because she was very thoughtful. She's imposing the regulations on America and then gracing us with their presence so we can beg for mercy and beg them, which tasks and chores can I give my children? Which can, dear government, which tasks and how can I raise my children? God bless America, land of the free, or something like that. 2, the law does affect the family farm because of how difficult farms are to pass on from one generation to the next. Most are only partially owned, other parts owned by aunts and uncles. Therefore, most are not exempt. And by the way, everybody I know worked on a farm. It was their farm, their grandparents' farm, their aunt and uncle's farm, or a friend's farm. So it kind of didn't work that way. Maybe it does in Los Angeles, but not in the rest of the country. The other thing Solis says gives justification for the new farm rules. These are great, by the way. Farm-related injuries are relatively high, indicating that it is a dangerous, dangerous field. Okay. Let's look into that, because kids could be blowing themselves up with dynamite, because that's, I think, the way you pick corn. Let's look at all the kids dying on the farm, film 11 epidemic that Solis is warning us of. 113. 113 people under the age of 20 die every year. Oh. How big is that? 0.00008% of the time there's a farm accident. 5,000 out of about 25 million teens die in a car crash every year. 5,000. That's 0.002% of the time. And this time, unlike the deficit, the small number is bigger. Teen car accidents are about 3 times more prevalent than youth farming accidents. 3 times. So, Hilda, youth farming does not have relatively high injuries. In fact, what, compared to sleeping? A tractor is far safer than driving on the road. So thanks for your help to curb all of the farming child labor scandals that are out there in America. But here's the truth, America. This isn't about child labor. These kids who don't get participation trophies because they're working on the farm learn responsibility and the value of hard work. It's common sense. But the current administration doesn't think so. No. I wonder, should we let them know about the Bernstein Bears? Have you seen this? Look at this anti-child propaganda. Child labor! Television spilling out into your living room. Your kids are watching brother and sister Bear get a summer job at Farmer Ben's house. What are they going to do? They wanted to quit, and okay, they learned an important lesson about working and stuff, but oh, humanity, can we ban these crazy bears, and why do people make them wear pants? Stop listening to these crazy people. These elites told us our national debt, it's not a bad thing. Don't worry about it. Energy independence, it's going to come from electing Democrats who think using solar panels will keep gas prices low. That government-run health care is going to save us money. Why should we listen to them on anything? Especially how to run farms. None of them have even been on a farm. They despise farms. And they get everything else wrong. This isn't about safety. It's not about the children. It's about control. The communist who cheered her appointment probably cheered for this farm bill, I'm guessing. She wants the control out of the farmers' hands and into Washington's. This reminds me of my grandfather. I learned hard work from my grandfather, who worked at Boeing and ran a farm. My grandfather was a union steward at Boeing. I grew up in a union household. My father was a baker. He wasn't union. I worked at my grandfather's farm. I worked at my father's bakery. My cousins worked at my uncle's bakery. My cousin, it's a random thing, my cousin had his arm ripped off in the bread mixer. He was, I don't even know, 15, 10. He was working at my uncle's bakery. He was scraping down the bread dough, but he was dumb. He left the machine on, and it ripped his arm off. Boy, we never forgot it. When he came to visit, we never forgot. I learned my lesson. I learned the value of hard work. I learned that some work is dangerous, but I also learned that sacrifice to provide for your family is a good thing. Would I have learned that sitting on the couch at home watching the stupid Bernstein Bears that they'll probably ban too? I also picked berries, and I fed the chickens on my grandfather's farm and my aunt and uncle's. I helped my grandfather build chicken sheds, not very well, because I'm horrible. Mainly, he had me pull out the old rusty nails out of the scrap wood. You know what? Oh, I ripped my hand open at about the age of 10. I got over it. Cowboy up, dude. My dad worked so hard, he was always tired. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. He would make the donuts first thing, and he actually fell asleep at the donut fryer. If you've never made donuts before, my father used to make them with 2 sticks, and he'd stand over the donut fryer, and he'd flip the donuts. And my father fell asleep, and one of his hands went into the donut fryer. It's a dangerous job. He ended up in the hospital. You know what he didn't do? He didn't sue the donut fryer for not having some safety shield. We didn't sue Grandpa or the rusty nail factory because I got a boo-boo on my hand. And none of us ever ran to the government. Life isn't easy, but it is so much easier when you work hard. Why is the government stopping you from having your kids work on your neighbor's farm, your family farm? Why can't they open up a lemonade stand without the government shutting them down? Because they will learn to be a hard-working free man and not a slave.